Well, I want to coin this term overexposed and underexplained. A lot of kids are being overexposed to a lot of content that they just can't intellectually wrap their minds around. And I think you got a lot of kids that's just kind of rushing to want to grow up. And then you have some kids who are just, they want to be kids. But when you work in, marginalized communities, sometimes that's just what they're exposed to. And I'm not saying all marginalized communities are exposed to that, but like what I've noticed, like some of my kids have no business viewing some of the things that they say in class. They just have no business doing it.
Today's guest is Harry Jamerson. Mr. Jamerson teaches 5th grade in the San Francisco Unified School District. And he shared a quote when we first started that is really powerful. I want to share it with you. If we give our children sound self-love, they will be able to deal with whatever life puts before them. And that's from the famous bell hooks. One of the things that we learned early in this conversation with Mr. Jamerson is that he not only has a beautiful quote about it, but he shows it in his classroom. He emulates this behavior in his classroom. When it comes to self-love and emotional intelligence, he makes very intentional decisions of when to intervene, when to step back, and the presence required to make the right decisions as a teacher. That's what education is all about. In today's episode, we discuss 1, the unique levels of fatigue that Black male educators endure. 2, how young students are overexposed and underexplained to a very major societal issue and how it affects their behavior. And 3, the importance of waiting to intervene so that young students learn how to process their own big emotions and big feelings. So are you ready? Take out your notes and let's start today's show. As a male educator at your school site, it can get lonely. Only 23% of K-12 educators in America are male. And just think about what this gender gap means for your male students. They experience disproportionate levels of discipline. This is a show for male educators who want to feel more understood by their community and want to create emotionally safe classrooms and schools for the next generation of male students. Welcome to Unmasking with Male Educators. Harry Jamerson, welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast, Unmasking with Male Educators.
Oh, thank you, brother, for the invitation. Looking forward to a really fruitful conversation.
Well, we've been catching up, like before we started recording, we were catching up on like where we met. And there's a great story about where we met. But let's first, will you tell folks what you want them to know about you? Introduce yourself, take a few minutes and just let folks know what brings you to this profession of education, but also what do you want them to know before we jump into these masks?
Yes. So my name is Harry Jamerson. I go by Mr. Jamerson. I am a teacher out in San Francisco. What brought me to the profession was that I saw a need for Black male educators. I was subbing in Richmond and I noticed that, there's not a lot of teachers that look like me. And I saw kids struggling with the teachers that were, doing the best to try to educate them, but they just didn't have the cultural connection with them. So I was on track to go to law school. And then my stepmom, God bless her heart, she's so nice. She was like, you go be a teacher. You should look into it. Right. And then I was like, I don't want to be a teacher. I want to be a lawyer. And then once I saw some of the issues that Black and brown children faced in the school system, I was like, I got to be here. And I felt more of a, you get that calling into education and, God then snagged me up. And here I am on my 7th year in education as a classroom teacher. So just looking forward to making schools work for, our students and all students.
Yeah. Now, were you originally from the Bay Area?
Yeah, so I was born in San Francisco, and then I was raised in the East Bay. Raised in Richmond with the high school in Oakland. So I would like to think of myself as an all Bay Area kid. I spent a lot of time between San Francisco and Richmond. My dad divorced my biological mom, my real mom, and I would split time between there in the Bayview in San Francisco and in Richmond. So, yeah, I'm a Bay Area born and raised.
Well, thank you for being on the show. Thanks for being here with us. And, when you reminded me before we started recording that we met in 2015 in Mexico City, of all places to meet somebody from the Bay Area in the middle of one of the largest cities in the world. And that 2015 was a year that I was leaving my role as an administrator, going back to the D school for this fellowship. And so that was so great. So thank you for bringing that summer back, because that was a beautiful summer.
Well, I remember you distinctively because you were the first brother who I met was an engineer, right? You were in science and you spoke Spanish. I was like, who is this guy? Like, I didn't know. I was just so impressed. And I was in education too. So being able to see you as an example of speaking two languages, translating, when we would go to the store, like, I was like, this is crazy. And in science. So I just always was really, really inspired by your example when I met you in Mexico City. So I'm glad this full circle moment has come.
Man, that was 10 years ago. Time flies.
Time flies. Yes,
time flies. It's hard to believe that it's been 10 years since I've been a classroom teacher or in the school building day to day. Now we're mostly in schools from the outside in. So the mask is in 2015. Actually, that was the summer right after the documentary "The Mask You Live In" came out too. So "The Mask You Live In" came out in February, March of 2015. And that summer was the summer that I was right now in my transition summer. So super excited for this conversation and the journey. You get to kind of see the mask movement. That summer, I think I went with some of my godsons out and we were making masks in the Zocalo. I can't 100% remember. I got to go back and search. But every time I went there, I was really trying to like engage people, right? Engage. And definitely my godsons and us talked about the masks all the time. But now we get to do some work. Now you and I get to connect as educators in this work. And so I'm super excited. So let's do this. We'll do the mask in a rapid form way. What we'll do is the mask movement is this concept of how we let the world see us, right? What we let people see on the outside and then what's happening behind the mask. So maybe what you do is just draw a picture, like whatever you think a mask looks like. Or if you have a mask, you can just use that as the image. But we're going to do the left side first, which is the front of the mask. So if you want to draw a picture, and then we'll write 3 words on the front, which is that same side where the mask is, of things that you let the world see about you. What are 3 qualities or characteristics that you as a teacher, you gladly let your teachers see? It can be something that you mostly let your staff see or that you let your students see, but it's 3 things you let people see yourself as an educator. And now we're going to go to the back. The back is different than the front. The back are 3 things that you normally don't let people see. 3 things that you normally don't talk much about. 3 that you feel comfortable sharing here. 3 qualities, characteristics of yourself that, or experiences that you don't talk much about. Okay, that's for the back. All right. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. So as a guest, you get to decide who goes first. Either you want to go first or you want me to go first.
I can go first.
Okay.
Just unveil it.
So just for the suspense, just show the front and to share that and then show the back. Yeah, there you go. Great.
So the first one, what educators and people usually see from me is being resilient, tough, and strategic. Those are, my name's Harry, which means general. So I like to be strategic and tough. I kind of inherited, those attributes from researching my name. And the things that people don't get to see really is that I'm usually a nervous person. I've been through a lot of pain and I have to persevere. So usually in professional environments, I'm pretty selective who I share my pain and perseverance with and my nervousness with, because you don't want it to be weaponized in a way where it's used against you,
Yeah. What was the third one on the front? The third one on the front again?
Strategic.
Strategic. Yeah. Thank you. First of all, thank you for sharing the mask. I'll go next. I resonate with a lot of that, and I think I'll tell you where I resonate when it comes up. So a lot of them I resonate, but the one in particular. So, as an educator now who goes from, outside to inside schools, I think the qualities that I do my best to show and let people see. So that's my my little image that I'm working on. I wrote passionate, funny, and caring. And that's the front, the things I let people see. I think normally I have hardworking there, and I've been really trying to, I'll use the word decouple, disconnect hard work with how I feel value. Not that I don't think hard work it's not a value of mine. I think I have overcompensated working so hard to feel like I'm worthy, that I oftentimes I could be working as hard as possible and still not feel like enough. Like I'm like, I can't really work any harder, right? I can definitely try and work smarter. I mean, as I keep learning, but so I've been trying. So the reason I didn't write it, which is a word that I usually write hardworking on the front, is because I've always been connected with hard work, like since I was 7. I mean, even probably before that, but definitely 7 is I remember it showing up a lot. So as a teacher, as an educator, when I'm trying to be passionate, I try and be funny, bring some levity to this hard profession of education, and I try and show that I'm coming from a place of caring. And then the back, the things that right now, tired, worried, angry. And if I was telling you where I resonate a lot, tired and pain, I'm gonna put them together. Tired and pain, because I've been dealing with some chronic pain probably for the last year. And I think, I don't know if it makes me more tired because I'm just constantly feeling it. And I think when I was an educator, I met one person who talked about chronic pain. I just didn't understand it. They told me, they explained what it was. Like, I'm just always feeling this pain. And I'm like, at the time I was a young teacher. It was, this was 20 years ago. I was like, well, what does that mean? Right. I had no concept of it, even trying to be empathetic. And now to know that on most given moments, I'm experiencing some kind of pain, it's almost hard to even put into words. Like, oh, no wonder I couldn't understand it, because trying to explain it to somebody is almost impossible. It's like, yeah, like right now, like right now, like right now, like right now. Like, it's not like it turns off, right? If I take a couple of a leave, maybe I'll get a little reprieve, but it's mostly every moment. And so I just have to like get it out of my head so I'm not thinking about it. But, it's one of those things that's popping up. So when you wrote pain, I was like, oh, yeah. Yeah. And I do my best not to talk about it because I feel concerned about it, and I feel worried about it, and I feel nervous about it, and I feel scared about it. So those are the things that are coming up right now. And I think angry is an interesting one, because I think the things that I've only written anger before on one of these. I do my best at putting on these masks of like hardworking, go-getter, funny, passionate, caring. But I found a lot to be angry about in education. I think I've had lots of experiences with administrators that have pushed those buttons, and I just put on a smile and try and walk away and try and ignore it. But I think a lot of it, as I've gotten older and more gray here, I think the relationship with gray and willingness to let people know when I'm getting upset has a direct correlation. Because I used to wouldn't let them know, but now, I found myself letting people know a little bit. I'm like, I shouldn't even be telling them this, right? Like, but that's what's happening lately. So those are the ones right now.
Yeah, I resonated with the pain, and I think doing this work, I can kind of see it's empathy fatigue. You can get fatigue from working in environments where you have to be the one to bear all the pain, guide the vulnerability of young men and young women, hear the stories of those who, go through stuff that you've never been through, and you have to find ways to show up for them. So, I think that's been big for me this school year too. And I hear it in you too, because it can be fatiguing, and and the pain, is associated with our thoughts. I believe that. So it's like, how are we taking care of ourselves to interrupt those thought patterns so we can continue to do this work for another 20 years so we won't get heart attack or, diabetes? Because as Black men, especially, we can be victim of those diseases, and stress, mostly stress. That's like the biggest killer, and yeah. So yeah, I definitely hear you for sure.
I wonder, when you said the idea of like feeling the fatigue, the empathy fatigue, like for me, maybe I ask you, do you find that hard to talk about? Do you find it hard to talk about feeling that fatigue?
Yeah, for sure. I think, it was something I'm going to coin from my therapist. He told me about it because I had a session, and I recommend therapy to all teachers, especially Black teachers. You're in situations where you're a mandated reporter. So you see things that you have to report, but you can't really directly address, and you're in situations where kids are, not necessarily getting all the attention that they need from their parents. So then they come to school with a lot, and you have to find a way to, mitigate that energy, but also be responsible for their learning, So there's the way our education system is set up is that we don't really do the intake of students and where they're coming from and what they're bringing to class.
Yeah.
And as an educator, you're responsible for them learning. And I'm one of those teachers where I have very high expectations, and I want to see my kids do well, but your kids aren't going to learn if they don't have any capacity to digest information when they're in an emotional state, especially as me. Like, I grew up, a large part of why I'm in education, I was in anger management as a kid, especially when my parents divorced, and I just raged. I didn't understand anything. Going to school, it's like, my parents are divorced. What's going on with the world? You know what I mean? And the world is turning, right? The world is turning. And no one understands that is really affecting my ability to pay attention, to participate, to retain information. But that's on my mind, So then you learn how to not talk about it, more so than learning how to talk about it. So, and then when you get older, you realize you got to have boundaries because you can't share everything with everyone at any time, especially me. I like vulnerability, but I don't like it that much. It's something I got to work on, especially as a Black man, because I don't want to feel like I don't have to tell my whole story to feel accepted, and trying to walk that thin line of being vulnerable, but also being real, and also holding your boundaries and your integrity, because everything isn't meant to be shared with everyone.
One of the things you said that was really interesting, you said, if I am feeling all these things and I'm holding them, how to not talk about all the things that I'm doing, and especially the stuff that you're taking in as educator. And as an educator, when I was in the classroom, I remember carrying all this stuff for students, right? Carrying all of their load, right? Emotionally, when we started Ever Forward. And I think because I didn't have a place to even unload my own stuff, I was carrying theirs and mine. And I remember this, I think it was probably 2006, maybe, or maybe the second year after Ever Forward started. I literally came to class that day. We had a big fundraiser that weekend. It was a bowl-a-thon. And I was I started feeling some pain in my leg. And then that pain in my leg went into worry. And then it was a shutdown. I told I had a student helper that year. The IW high school is IWE, which is a independent work experience. So they work for you. And I called him over and I said, hey, tell the class to go outside early. It was 10 minutes, 15 minutes before class is over. I never let people out early. I don't even let you out when the bell ring. The bell doesn't let people out of my class. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was just a notification. it, they be like, was Ranch think he's better than the Bell? I said, no, I think I'm smarter than the Bell. That's what I think. So the bell hadn't, it was nowhere near ringing. So they knew there was no way. So I told everybody, hey, tell them to go outside. He was like, I said, tell them to go outside, just get some fresh air. Cause I was at a portable. And so he said, everybody go outside, sit down, stand out in front of the classroom. Don't go anywhere, get some fresh air. I'll tell you more later. And everybody was like looking around like that. It was set up. They thought he was setting them up. Cause they were like, I was over on the other side of the room, just like pretending like I was writing something on a piece of paper. And, they're like, we ain't get to leave here early. What are you talking about? You trying to get us in trouble? And I'm like, he's like, no, Brand said go outside and wait outside. It's all good. And literally, I remember that moment because I was carrying all of their stuff, like the stuff of young people who were going through whatever. And, high schoolers are, I think, sometimes, and not always, but more tight-lipped with what they're going through than elementary, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, in my experience, I don't know exactly, but just from my experience, like kids want to talk about what they're going through. They just learn early to shut it down. They learn to bottle it up. They learn to don't talk about it, right? High school is a lot more well refined at keeping it to themselves, And but they were talking about it, and they were talking about some heavy stuff, and it was just like boom, 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 boom. And I remember that moment like it was yesterday. Like I closed the door after them. I locked the door, and then I called the office. I had my IW call the office, tell them to send an ambulance. Because I'm about to pass out. Like I literally was like about to faint. I was like, the moment you like, I think I'm about to lose consciousness. Like, and it was just wild. When the security guards came to my classroom, they're like, "What's up with Branch? What's going on with Branch?" I heard them out there yelling, and they wouldn't let him in. And I was just like, "Don't let him in. Don't let him in." But that moment of like when you realize how much empathy fatigue can turn into really internal fatigue, right? Mm-hmm. Like internal, physical, emotional fatigue and stress. And I think educators don't often have a place to talk about it. They may have some war stories in the copy room, but they don't often if they're not careful. Some of them do, and I'm not saying all of them don't. But this idea that I often thought that if I talk about that I'm carrying a lot of stress, then students will stop telling me stuff. I don't want to get back to them that I'm feeling a little pressured and overloaded with their stuff because I want them to trust me. I feel like they're not overloading me, right? I want them to know that they can talk to me. But because I didn't have any place to deal with my own stuff, I didn't have a men's team that year. I didn't have to go and like let go of some of my own stuff. So I'm not carrying theirs and mine. It couldn't, it was at the limit, it was at the limit. And I think, are you at your site, how many male teachers are there?
There's 3 male teachers currently.
Excellent.
Yes. Out of, I think 12.
Great.
Yeah,
that's good. I think that's a high number for elementary.
Yes, that is. But I think it's going to reduce to 2 next year. No, it's going to be 3. One is just shifting his position. So
okay.
Yeah.
And you're at 5th grade level, right? 5th grade.
Yeah. So I teach 5th grade, and so I see a lot. I see a lot of what the kids are going through, especially with technology impacting the way that, they think about the world. I kind of inherit students sometimes with, who are a couple of grade levels behind, Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of different challenges when you're the last stop from previous years of schooling. And I'm pretty sure 8th grade teachers feel that, 12th grade teachers feel that pressure, but you tend to get that pressure, so.
What is something you're noticing that, a lot of our workshops are in mostly high school, middle school. This year we had a 5th grade boys group at a school in San Francisco. What are you noticing this year compared to other years? Like maybe it could be last year or compared to the last couple of years. What are you noticing? Because as you see the 5th graders and we see high schoolers and middle schoolers, them in the next 2 or 3 years, we're seeing a lot, but I'd like to hear from you on elementary level. What are you seeing different in students? You can pick whatever time frame to compare it to. What are you noticing? You mentioned social media. You mentioned phones or technology. Yeah. Like what are some things you're noticing that are either concerning you, worrying you, have you kind of up at night?
Well, I want to coin this term: overexposed and underexplained. A lot of kids are being overexposed to a lot of content that they just can't intellectually wrap their minds around. whether it's sexual, like, or, just really, really, I think as a fifth grader, like things you shouldn't really digest or think about it until you're in middle school or you're in high school. So being overly exposed to these concepts, and then acting them out in class, which is, highly problematic, whether it's like inappropriate dance moves, just stuff saying inappropriate terms, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, can you just chill? Can you be a kid for a minute? And I think you got a lot of kids that's just kind of rushing to want to grow up. And then you have some kids who are just, they want to be kids. But when you work in, marginalized communities, sometimes that becomes that's just what they're exposed to. And I'm not saying all marginalized communities are exposed to that, but like what I've noticed, like some of my kids have no business viewing some of the things that they say in class. They just have no business doing it, And to me, I'm the person who has to be the parent, talk about fatigue, where it's like, you have to keep it school oriented, but again, that's what's on their mind and that's what's taking their attention. And if you don't address it, it's just going to repeat itself. So you have to find ways to creatively mitigate these situations, whether it's through, curriculum, or talking to the social worker, but you have to find ways to address these issues because it's I feel like it's getting worse, to be honest, because now with cellular devices, you literally have another world in your hand where you can, research a range of topics or be exposed to a range of topics. And how do you find ways to channel that energy to something academic, which is hard. But it's really, really something that, that's really, really hard to navigate. In addition, cause I would like to think of myself as a strict teacher, but I'm like a warm demander, and I also feel that some of the kids are just mean these days. Like they just mean, like, and you wonder where they get it from, like, it's just like you shouldn't say these things, and, that's the challenge is because, behavior is the language of needs. And when you see these behaviors acting out, you're really trying to figure out how to address or give a student the needs and the capacity of education. And education isn't, structurally, well, it attempts to, but it's not really there for students in a way that it helps mitigate all the trauma that kids are exposed to day in and day out.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna say some heavy stuff, brother. So
Oh, no, it's perfect. That's what this is for. Look, bring it. This is look. What I believe is that we here in this conversation, you and your colleagues at your school, at your site, but educators around the country need to have these kind of conversations where we get to just like, as we're not only navigating thoughts that we're feeling, but just exploring what are we feeling, right? Like, like overexposed, underexplained we know that those devices that are these billion-dollar companies are hungry for our kids' attention. We know that, right? And like the key is that sometimes the one thing you see, like elementary school is where I first saw, I didn't see like a simple little image. I saw a magazine that threw things into a haywire, in my brain, in my mind, and you can't unsee it. You can't unsee it. And for some people, they see something once, it's no big deal. I don't want to see it again. They put it away. Some people, you see it and you're like, oh my God, I got to see that again. And that type of connection, that type of ability to make sure that we don't understand what's happening in the minds of our young people, especially if they're thinking the way they should be, is on being mean because it gives me brownie points. It gives me social capital with other people. I'm being mean because it's what people have done to me. I'm doing it to others. I'm mean because I don't care about anybody else. No one cares about me. Like whatever the reason that those behaviors pop out, I think we got to have a room to recognize it's coming from somewhere, right? It's coming from, like you said, the behavior is a language of needs. Like, what do I need in this? What do I need? Why am I saying mean things to this person? Well, I don't know. Like, and then when, like, the younger they are, you know, they're trying to find, I'm trying to think of a reason, and maybe the frontal lobes may have not fully kicked in, but you're like, well, you said it, so you got to have a reason why you said it. Why'd you say it? You know, and sometimes they may not, right? They may not have a good reason. They're just like, I don't know. Hey. And I've seen it with middle schoolers too. I've seen it with middle schoolers who were tremendously, when we had a brotherhood circle, let's say the one with the fifth grade, I can compare fifth graders to those, like, this kind of like the subtle stuff, the subtle stuff, right? Like, and you have to watch it, and you have to sometimes just like, you have to let it play out before, because I want to jump in and like eliminate anybody feeling any kind of discomfort. But sometimes I just need to watch it before, even when I can pick up what I think is about to happen. Sometimes I need to like kind of let it happen, right? So that I'm not like preempting projecting what I wasn't going to do that, right? And you're like, oh, okay, you weren't going to do that. I could, and so now sometimes you have to just let it happen. And you're like, oh man, that went worse than I thought. That's not that. I shouldn't have let it happen. But sometimes you have to be able to give feedback based on not what you thought they were going to do, because if they're not really able to be honest about what they were about to do, like we have in one of our groups, we have this idea of like, we have snacks, right? So, you know, there's something about boys and snacks. This is an all boys circle. So it's like the coveting of snacks is one of the wildest things. But as a kid, and these are not kids who have food insecurities in terms of the typical way you think food insecurities. I know what food insecurities are, so I know about hoarding it to save it for later. Like, but this is more of like, this is the type of behavior I'm seeing with them is like, I just want to have more than anyone else. Like, I just want to I want to stack it on the top of my table. Oh, he gave me one of his chips, and he gave me one of his, and he gave me one of his, and now somebody looks at me and I got 4 of them, but I got 4 from my friends. I didn't get 4 from anybody. I didn't take 4 of yours, right? And then somebody who over here is like, how you get 4? Like, now there's a conversation that's got to kick off, right? Oh, well, you got 1. I mean, don't be mad. Don't be mad because you only got 1, but and I got 4, right? And it's these kind of things where you have to watch them like navigate the world. They're trying to see what does power look like? What does power feel like? Right? And power is small when they're 5th graders, right? Because it's like, what can they really do? But I got 4 chips now. I got 4 chips, and you want more, but you can't get more because I got the most, right? And you just watch this kind of play out in like this 5th grade mind. They're like, what, 10, maybe 11, right? And you're like, okay, what are you getting out of this? What are you getting out of this? You got your friend, you convinced your friends to give you their chips for whatever reason, right? I mean, maybe you're going to eat them all, and now you're using that as a thing with this guy over here. I got more than you. And you just imagine like how where does that stop, right? It's just, I'm middle school now, I'm high school, I'm more mature, I don't do that. Or is that the seeds that plant where you say, I like to have more than everybody else, no matter how I make other people feel about it, right?
Well, you know, people, I mean, in a capitalistic society, there's a constant measuring of just what you have. And, you know, even in 5th grade, you see status plays out in academics. You know, there's the smart kids and there's the not so smart kids. So they grow up seeing these things. And for someone who's hoarding chips or getting chips, that's his way of feeling seen. You know, that's what creates visibility for him, you know. But status happens as early as 3rd or 2nd grade, you know. And, you know, we don't, you know, as adults, we have to be more intentional how to interrupt status to make sure, you know, class is accessible for all students. Because I remember being in class, not being the smartest one and feeling like unworthy. So I act out in different ways to gain that attention, you know. So I could probably eat the most bags of chips, or I could bring the most money, or I could do all these other things. But really, I just want to say, hey, can you see me? Like, I'm worthy too, you know.
Can you see me? Ooh. And imagine how many things have been done under the guise of needing to be seen. There's a quote that says, some of the kids who need the most love will ask for it in the most unloving of ways.
Yeah.
And that idea that, oh, this is what's happening. Like the behavior is the language of needs. I need to be seen. And even if that means that I got to do something totally drastic, out of pocket, whatever, right? And you realize that the opportunity for us if we start working with them earlier is to give language to those needs, so we can see, what does me needing it mean somebody else can't have it? Does me needing attention mean that I don't want anybody else to get attention, so I need to take it all? Or does it me needing to feel love mean that I gotta like hurt others' feelings so they feel small, so I feel big, or that I feel like all the ways needs get acted out, like through the behavior, right? So I think that's one of the things. And as you're working with them younger, we believe that we probably need to begin working with young men earlier. As they get to middle school, they get more training about not talking about how they feel. And when they get to high school, boy, if we haven't had an intervention before then, it's so hard, right? They're hungry for it, but you got to find the right conditions, right? How many can be in the same room at the same time? Who's in the room at the same time? What's the status of everybody who's in the room? What topic are we going to talk about? How much can I trust the confidentiality in the space that we're in? And I think that if we can just begin building that earlier, that's what we believe, if we can begin building that earlier, working with them, maybe fourth grade, having those healthy conversations early, and then at least building that early conversations to a deeper connection, right? Like, hey, we've been doing this since you were, and it's not disappear. It's just like, okay, let's go next year. And then we keep building. And as you get older, by the time you get to high school and move on out to college or career, trade school, military, whatever you're doing next, you've had lots of experience of what it means to be a young man. In our work, I'm speaking about the young men particularly, like who can speak about how they feel. It's not like I'm leaving it to wonder. Like, it's like, oh, I want to be angry right now. I want to show anger because I know that is effective, but actually I'm feeling sad right now. Like, like anger is what people will respond to. They don't respond to sadness. You learn these things in your community, right? You learn what things people don't respond. They don't respond to you. You're afraid. You can't be afraid. Don't be no wimp. Don't be no XYZ,
Yeah.
And we say, oh, I'm not supposed to feel afraid. I'm supposed to be tough. I'm supposed to be strong. I'm never supposed to back down. But actually, I feel like left alone. I feel like isolated. I feel alone. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think, how do we begin to help them have the language of emotion so that they become emotionally not only just intelligent, but they can get the help they need when they need it?
Yeah, I mean, emotional intelligence is something I'm a proponent of, and I think you need to start teaching that at kindergarten, to be honest, because now with I don't hate technology, but I hate when young kids are on technology, because there's like this study that shows that I think it was in the New York Times about how you give your kids technology before 2, you see a spike in tantrums throughout the years, so if you're an adult and you have a limited skill set of how to address tantrums, or, you're not emotionally intelligent to navigate that tantrum, you're only going to show your strategies in dealing with that is going to be limited. And kids are going to learn how to use that as a way to act out for things down the road in a line, if not rectified or corrected, So, to your point about having intervention as early as 4th grade is very important. But it also has to be a priority of that institution or that school district. It has to be a priority. They have to be able to see that this is important for young boys to be able to express themselves and to be emotionally intelligent, as well as to learn math and to learn reading, because for me, you can't access math and you can access it. And there's a lot of people who defy the odds. But what I'm noticing is that those who go through a lot of trauma and a lot of have difficulties, those who need the most love, those students need like a form of are a space where they could vent, where they could process, where they feel loved. Like it's more of a tiered approach, you know? It's not just like send them to class and he's good. Like they need additional resources that sometimes teachers aren't equipped with. And you can't always stop your class when one student wants to act up. I'm not one of those teachers. So I mean, just keep it real. It's like a cost benefit analysis with me. If one student's acting up, I got to think about the other 20. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and unfortunately, you can reach out and you can do what you need to do to help that kid, but sometimes you can't help that kid. And then that becomes a part of your internalized failure, you know, but at the same time, it's systemic, you know? So It's like, how do you constantly grapple with, these issues? You know, I think this is like a 20-year conversation that I'm gonna have with myself as I evolve in this profession, you know?
As we get ready to round this out, like, you know, you and I, we shared our masks here. Have you noticed the young people in your class, these fifth graders, operating from a place of a mask? Like what they're saying on the outside doesn't seem to match the stories. It's like, you're saying this, but the way you're emotionally emoting is something very different, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of human beings in general do that as they get older, especially kids though. And the kids in my classroom, I try to do a good job of exposing them to a range of emotions and having them act out their emotions. We also have instructor who comes in and do mindfulness with the students and help them, you know, come up with a language of how to address some of these big feelings that they're having. But I had a kid who we did the staff kickball game today, and he was just mad. He was like, the girls wasn't catching. And then one of the girls was like, you dropped the ball too. And he just blew up. He, as a kid said, he crashed out. He's huffing and puffing, but I don't think he was angry. He was embarrassed, but his response was angry. You know what I mean? He was angry because she called him out, but he was really embarrassed because he did drop the ball, you know, and it was a mix of anger and embarrassment. And then one of the librarians in the class, and she's never she visits my class, but she doesn't visit them when they have these higher reactions. So I'm just like, he just gonna do what he gonna do. I'm gonna let him crash out. I'm not about to baby him. And I'm saying that in a way where it's like, I'm not about to let him not experience his emotion in fullness. And what happens is you see, oh, what's the matter? You see this coddling. And to me, it's like, you know, wipe his tears. No, let the tears come out. That's how he gets his strength. Like, let him process, let him know, like, is this a big deal or is it a small deal? Like, he's doing all this and I'm not reacting. I'm just like, all right, bruh. Like, you done, you know? All right, it's okay. Take a deep breath now. It's okay to be angry, you know, because that's what he really needs, is that time to sit with his emotion and then process it and then some guidance. But if I'm there to rush to his need all the time, then he doesn't authentically get a chance to process the big emotion that he's having. So I'm pretty big on that with my kids, because some teachers would look at me like, are you going to do something? I'm like, no. Like, he needs to know that this is either problematic or it's useful. And I hope, you know, that students, a big part of my story is I had to transform a lot of that pain and that anger into something positive. And I'm trying to instill little seeds for kids to be like, you could be angry, but do something about it. Like, you could be mad, do something about it. And that's super important.
You know, just for the last question, I think I have a question for you is, what advice would you give to other educators, you know, who are in elementary level, you know, like the teachers who were saying, came to you, are you going to do something about it? Like, some of them would probably would want to be upset with you for not going in to go and rescue, right? Because their model of way educators should do is always cover the pain, right? Cover it, conceal it, hide it. But what outside of that, or even include with that, what advice would you give to other educators about how to understand not only us as male educators, but the work that we have to do, and how is going to maybe look different than how other people are going to navigate education?
I guess my first advice is just to be present, to really be present, because we bring a lot of our own thinking and project them onto kids. And we kind of, I've witnessed over my years in education that you either have high expectations for kids, you either have low expectations for kids. You either think they could figure things out or you don't think they could figure things out. But when you truly present in that moment, like I was really present. I was like, how am I? I checked in with myself. I'm like, how am I feeling? Do I feel like this is a big thing? I know this kid. I know his patterns. Like I know that this is going to go high and then it's going to subside, So it's like I was truly present, and being truly present, that's the magic where you can really influence a situation, But if I was to say, oh, he's mad, let me jump and block everything and make sure that he's okay, then, I'm not giving that kid the chance to acknowledge what's going on inside him. And granted, there are cases where you have kids who are hella mad and they act crazy. Like, obviously if you know your kids, like if you know this kid, go flip the classroom, call the T10, like call somebody, like call the security guard, like obviously, but like for kids who just are really trying to process their emotions and they need some feedback.
Yeah.
Let them experience it. Oh, you notice your heart rate went up, right? All right, let me show you how to slow your heart rate down because your emotions come and go. So take a couple of deep breaths, and it's really about teaching our kids how to breathe into these emotions and not letting them dictate their whole nervous system, their whole prefrontal, cortex and all these things that hijack their system, but really just helping them lean into it and taking a step back, and being reflective. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Man. I'm thankful. Thank you for this conversation. Like, I think, anytime I get a chance to have conversations with other males in education, men who are doing this work. And thank you for being elementary. We know that there's a shortage of men in education in general, but in elementary school in a big way. So thank you for that. They say that there's some studies out there that say, if a child has a male teacher in early childhood, elementary, it creates such a difference in them. It's not just black boys. It's all kids benefit, all kids benefit, for seeing many different types of individuals in that space, especially men. So thank you. Thank you for the work you're doing. And I think, where are you all at right now in the school year? Where are you all at right now?
So we're 5 days away from graduation. It's going to be great. I'm excited to see the kids, just really celebrate themselves. I'm excited to see the happy families, because it's a really joyous moment, and we need to do more celebrating in our communities, even if it's small. We've persevered through a lot and we continue to persevere. And I think we need to start giving ourselves some credit for the work we do. On top of the work we don't, but we do a lot.
Well, I hope next school year, we connect and would love to come and do a presentation with your fifth graders around the mask, if ever that can be of service, or give you the materials so you can do it. We would love to have your school as a partner with that. And, I hope you have a restful summer, rejuvenating.
Oh, thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I hope you do that. Thank you for being in this conversation. And is there any last words you want to say to any people out there as we close down the show tonight? It's not goodbye. It's see you soon. But any last words you have as you close out this year? Maybe even like this. Like, what do you want to say to people out there as an educator?
Yeah, if you don't understand the education profession, a doctor goes to a school and he becomes a doctor. I don't go and teach him how to be a doctor. A cop goes to academy, a firefighter, they go through the academy to become in these professions, but I don't go and teach them how to be what they are. And I feel like education, just because people have kids, they think that teaching is raising kids and teaching is different from raising kids. It's a totally different ball game. You're responsible for someone learning. And now you're responsible for their learning, but their emotional state. You're responsible for whether they can hold a pencil. You're responsible for them if they can communicate. These are things, a lot of metrics that we're trying to help students. So I really want people to show empathy towards teachers. Yeah, I mean, you got some bad teachers too. I'm not going to sit here and say all teachers are great. All teachers, you got bad everything. But what I'm saying is, like, if you see a teacher trying, exercise empathy, exercise empathy, because they are trying and they're doing the best that they can, with the tools that they have, whether they Black, white, Mexican, whatever, like Latin, like they're doing the best they can with what they have. And as a person outside of education, if you're so concerned, volunteer in that class, work with that teacher, work with that school, work with that community, because the solutions we need solutions that are collective. And if we're constantly dividing each other, we're never going to reach the goals that we can reach as a society and as Americans. We in it together. If Russia was to bomb us, they ain't bombing Ashanti. They ain't bombing Bear. They bombing you. They bombing me. They bombing my auntie. They bombing my colleague next door. And I hate to sound all patriotic that way, but seriously, we need to start thinking about our communities in that way. Like, how can we come up with solutions that are collective for our geographics and, statewide and nationwide, because we got to be on the same page. Not necessarily the same page, but we have to be able to disagree and also work together. And that's what I hope. I hope we build bridges, but we also know when to just, go our own ways. And that's fine. That's just what it is. So,
Mr. Jamerson, I want to appreciate you. I want to appreciate you for being on the show. So good to see you again after 10 years of the old. I had no grades back then, I think. I don't think I had one.
Nah.
Yeah, man. It's a whole new world right now. But I'm grateful for you. And thank you for the work you're doing in education. And I look forward to connecting again.
Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, man.
And thank you for the work that you're doing. I appreciate you for just holding space for male educators, but all educators to, talk about this work and find creative solutions to, tackle the pressing issues of our lifetime. So thank you for the work. And we gonna make a vow to take care of ourselves in this work, as Black men, as male teachers, and so we could continue to show up and, guide the next generation.
Let's do it. Well, folks, you heard it here. Mr. Jamerson said, take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Know that if you don't want to tell anybody about your mask out loud, you can make your mask anonymously at millionmask.org. Stay tuned for what's coming next this summer. And maybe you'll see us doing a workshop in Mr. Jamerson's class next school year. Take good care, everybody. Be well. And again, Mr. Jamerson, have a great summer. Go get some juice, rejuvenation, some rest, all of the above.
Appreciate you, good brother. We'll talk soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye, everybody. See you.